Knuckleheads, Tyrone Spong has failed his drug test and his fight against pound for pound one of the best boxers in the world, and Oleksandr Usyk has been canceled. This is G with Fighters Rep. Thank you so much for joining us. If you like to talk about combat sports, click the subscribe button below. This is a huge blow to boxing. This is a huge blow to Oleksandr Usyk, and it is an absolute shame. It looks like Tyrone Spong, the notable kickboxer, very popular in the kickboxing and MMA world, has essentially been popped for Clomiphene, which is an estrogen blocker. Now, if you know what an estrogen blocker is, good for you. If you don't, like I didn't before I found out about Clomiphene, essentially what happens is when people are taking performance-enhancing drugs or things to increase their testosterone levels, be it steroids or whatever else, they'll go ahead and they'll take estrogen blockers or estrogen inhibitors, and Clomiphene is one of these. And what it does is it basically prevents the estrogen levels from going up as the testosterone levels go up, because it's the testosterone levels going up that also cause the estrogen levels to go up, because the estrogen in the body is actually produced by the testosterone. I believe there's an enzyme that sort of converts it to estrogen, if I'm not mistaken. So basically, as the level of testosterone increases, so does the level of estrogen. And typically people that want to enhance their performance or their body composition, they'll go ahead and they'll take estrogen blockers, so that it's like the idea is to have as much testosterone and as little estrogen in their body as possible to prevent all the things that come with estrogen, I guess, like the extra fat and things like that. So and to be, I guess, as muscular and have as great of a performance and composition in your body as possible. So it looks like Tyrone Spong has been busted, unfortunately, for Clomiphene. I believe it's also known as Clomid. He's saying that there was no wrongdoing, and he's pointing to a test that he took last week via the Illinois State Athletic Commission. However, the test that he failed is the VADA test, which has a higher standard, which I think is very strange. I think it's very strange that the athletic commissions aren't using the same standards as the VADA agencies. And I find that problematic. I think they should all be using a uniform test so that, everybody's sort of testing the same across the board, because last week he tested and he's clean according to Illinois, and the fight's on and people are buying tickets and people are preparing, including the fighters. And then, this week you get a VADA test and it says, hey, he didn't pass the VADA test. And that's a real pain in the behind, because now you're out on a fight and you've only got a few days notice to replace. And obviously Eddie Hearn is looking to replace. He's got a slew of heavyweights that I'm sure are very interested in Oleksandr Usyk, who's going to be making his debut at heavyweight. Now, mind you, he's one of the best pound for pound in boxing, but that was at cruiserweight where he unified the division. This is a whole new ball game in the heavyweight division, where he's actually undersized in the modern heavyweight era, where we've got giants like Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury and guys like Anthony Joshua that are like 6'6" plus. I believe Usyk's only like 6'4" at best. What he lacks in size, however, he more than makes up for in skill, speed, and volume. He's a very technical fighter. He's got a great Olympic pedigree. And I think he can make some noise in the heavyweight division, assuming he can get by some of these giants in the division. That being said, Andy Ruiz is not a giant in the division, but much more experienced in the pro ranks than Oleksandr Usyk. So, I mean, there's that advantage as well. So, obviously, he's going to have to sort of ease his way into the division. Now, having said that, I don't think Oleksandr Usyk had any business at all being, or rather fighting against a Tyrone Spong. Spong is a fantastic fighter, don't get me wrong, but as far as his boxing career, even though he's 13-0 or something like that, he's just fought a bunch of tomato cans, and he actually won a split decision for like the Latino WBC title or something like that against a guy, I mean, I've never even heard of, and I'd like to consider myself a pretty hardcore boxing fan. For him to go up against an Oleksandr Usyk who went through the WBSS, the World Boxing Super Series at cruiserweight, beat Murat Gassiev, who was a really tough guy in the final, knocked out a very tough Tony Bellew. For him to go up against, for Spong to go up against a guy like that, I think would have been far too soon in his career. And so I'm actually quite happy that this fight is being called off, because I don't think Spong should be taking fights like this against a guy of this caliber. I think this was a big time A-side versus B-side sort of setup fight. The typical bullshit we get in boxing where it's, a highly favored guy before a guy that really has no business in there. And again, that's not to disrespect Tyrone Spong, who's a fantastic fighter in his realm in kickboxing. But as far as boxing, even though he's undefeated, he hasn't fought anyone of note. And we know how boxing works versus the other combat sports, in that there's a huge A side and a B side all the time. They kind of feed you tomato cans to build your record, to pad your record. Him going in there against a guy like Usyk would have been a huge problem. So now we're looking at who's going to be fighting Usyk next. There's a few names that have come up already. It looks like some of the names coming from the rumor mill include Murat Gassiev, who's going to be moving up to heavyweight as well after his loss to Oleksandr Usyk. And that could be a great fight, because that was a good fight when it happened at cruiserweight. There's Filip Hrgovic. There's Dillian White. There's David Price. There are a lot of guys. Now, it looks like I think David Price is going to be fighting Derek Chisora. But, there's a lot of guys that would line up to fight this. And in fact, this is the same sort of opportunity that presented itself in the Anthony Joshua versus Andy Ruiz situation when Jarrell Miller failed his drug test. Basically, Andy Ruiz just messaged Eddie Hearn via Instagram, is my understanding, and was able to get the fight. So, that's what I wanted to say about that, knuckleheads. Tyrone Spong popped for the Clomiphene. He's, of course, saying he did nothing wrong. It's kind of hard to have Clomiphene in your body if you're a male, especially considering the fact that it's basically used to induce labor in women. Other than that, it doesn't really have any use other than being an estrogen blocker, which is, I guess, how it induces the labor. So it's just very, very strange. He did ask for the B sample. He's claiming it's a setup to remove him from the card, but I think as a promoter myself, I would actually hate for a fight to be pulled out this late. So I'm not sure who he would accuse of setting him up. I actually think that's a very silly claim, but I guess, you have to save face somehow. And of course, we don't know 100% if he did it or not. Maybe he took a tainted supplement or something like that. But chances are, in a situation like this, I mean, it would make sense for a fighter who's maybe doing some kind of performance-enhancing drug or just wants to get his testosterone levels much higher than his estrogen levels to take an estrogen blocker or inhibitor. So that's all I really got to say about that. Arc7X Angel, thank you so much, brother, for donating to the channel. As you guys know, anything you guys donate to the channel in the super chat or in the description, in the links below, if you buy a shirt or buy anything from Amazon in our affiliate link below, after clicking the link to the Amazon hand wraps, we basically will get a commission, and anything we make, we basically funnel the majority of those proceeds right back into Fighters Rep Promotions and building the best, what we believe is the best kickboxing promotion on earth and the only one in the state of California. So thank you so much, Arc7X Angel. I really appreciate your generosity, brother. And be sure to tune in. In a bit, we're going to do a video on this Clarissa Shields issue, but definitely let me know what you guys think about this Tyrone Spong situation. Did you think it was a fair fight from the outset? Do you think that Spong is actually innocent of this? What do you guys think happened here? I'd love to hear your opinions. Leave them in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe.